Formula One is not perfect. It has problems. It's got issues and flaws. And Formula One, people are going to give me crap. They're like, take a drink every time he says Formula One. We'll say F1 from now on. But it really reminds me, the sport reminds me of college football in America, where things are not fair. There's no salary cap. And in college football, for example, some teams have more money and more resources, and they dominate. In college football in America, New Mexico State University is never, ever, ever going to beat Alabama. It's not going to happen. Because the resources Alabama has are so much greater, and the players are so much better, and the talent is so much better. Everything is better at Alabama. New Mexico State will never have an opportunity to truly compete with them on the same level, even though they've played each other before. And the same exact stuff happens in Formula One. In 2019, Mercedes won the championship, and they spent $484 million, almost $500 million on their team. Then you look at, Haas Racing Team spends $173 million. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. And I'm okay with that. But I believe a lot of Americans that look at F1 from a periphery really struggle with that. I don't know. I've accepted it. Basically there are only 3 teams that have an opportunity and have a shot to win the championship. You have Ferrari, Mercedes is first. They're going to probably win, and then maybe Red Bull. And those 3 teams spend so much money that other teams simply can't compete. So then it becomes a battle for fourth, and I actually am down for that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, they're going to be locked. Not quite sure what position they're going to come in yet. Probably Mercedes and Red Bull, Ferrari, who knows? Depending on who you are, your biases, I would say Red Bull. Some people say Ferrari. Who cares? But the battle for fourth is actually really interesting to me. It's fun. I'm excited about that. And then there's good news on the horizon is that eventually Formula One is planning to institute a salary cap. $175 million is the plan to have a budget cap for your car in 2021. Now, I can't tell if Corona has changed that. I know that the technical specifications change has been pushed back till 2022. I don't know if the budget is going to be moved back, the budget cap, but I'm really excited for that. And the goal here is to put things on a more even playing field. The budget cap is going to consider everything except for 3 things: driver salaries, marketing expenses, and then costs associated with the engine. I'll get to that final point at the end because I don't actually understand. I'll just say it. What does that mean? If anyone can tell me, I'm a fan of this. I don't get, the budget is going to change. What do you mean costs associated with the engine? Is that buying the engine? Is that, because that could mean literally anything. It's so ambiguous with the wording there. I don't know what that means. Now, driver salaries, I'm totally fine with. You would think okay, the problem with this is bigger teams with more money can come in, pay a driver a ton of money, and then steal good drivers from bad teams that have less money. And while that is true, yes, I also don't think it's quite right to put a cap on how much money a Formula One driver can make. Because you got to think about it this way. A driver's taking a massive, massive risk. He's the guy going around a corner at 190 miles an hour. And I just don't think they should be limited with how much they can be paid. Also part of the appeal of an F1 driver, whether you're a kid who wants to be one someday or you're someone who, I love following Formula One drivers because it's such a different world. They live in Monaco. They're rich. They're good looking. It's very interesting. And I'll admit it, right? I follow a lot of them on Instagram. It's fun to watch their life. And part of the appeal of a Formula One driver is that they're rich. I'm okay with all that. And it's a good incentive. Again, these guys are athletes. They deserve to be paid. I'm also okay with marketing not being on an even playing field. If Mercedes wants to spend $200 million marketing their car and Alfa Romeo just can't, they only have $4 million, that's fine. Because as long as their competitive nature at the end, if they're competing on the same level, you would think winning would speak for itself anyway. Okay, Mercedes markets a bunch. They make YouTube videos, all this content and crazy stunts, whatever they want to do. Fine with me, as long as there's a more level playing field competitively on race day. That's okay with me. I don't know if that's exactly what's going to happen, but it would be cool if that is what happened. I think it is going to be closer. I like that. Again, I'm not sure what does that mean. There's that one phrase. the budget cap does not include costs associated with the engine. I don't know. I've heard that phrase a lot when I did research. I don't know what that means exactly. I couldn't find it. If anyone does, let me know. It seems kind of weird to me, but I'm not sure. Now, here's the one sad part of putting a budget cap on Formula One. It's not all good. A lot of people, I think, are going to be very happy that there's a budget cap coming to Formula One. Here is the one thing that's going to get lost when that, in fact, happens. I actually want to talk about IndyCar racing. If you look at an IndyCar from face value, if you know nothing about racing. Now, I know that real Formula One fans go, there's a gigantic difference. I get it. But if my dad, who knows nothing about Formula One, looked at a Formula One car and an Indy car, he would think they're the exact same thing. What he would have no idea about is that an Indy car costs $16 million and a Formula One car can cost like $250 million. There's a massive difference in how much a car costs. And part of that is they have streamlines and the technical specifications are different, yada, yada. Here's my concern. Will having a salary cap kind of nerf this incredible machine that an F1 car is? Mercedes spends $500 million building their car. But as a result, they make a beautiful, unbelievable machine. And what happens when they can't spend all that money on their machine? Could it hurt the high level of performance? I don't know. I legitimately don't know. But it's something I don't want to completely ignore is the budget cap may help with the competitive nature of Formula One. But what might be lost in that transition is that we might have an effect on performance and the cars might not be quite the same level as they were in the past. I don't know. I'm an uneducated moron who just loves the sport talking here. And I've thought about that a lot. I'm like, will this hurt things? I don't know. Now, there's another thing that is wrong with Formula One. It's the politics. And this is a side of F1 that I try to do my very best to ignore because I can't do anything about it. And it's not cool. And there's a lot of unfairness. Look at the way teams are paid. I mean, there's a lot of stuff grandfathered in where Ferrari gets a bunch of money simply because they're Ferrari and they've been around for a long time, among all kinds of other things. Ayrton Senna was, in my opinion, the best driver of all time. And even if you don't like him or you think Michael Schumacher's better or whoever you want to pick, I'm a big fan of Ayrton Senna. May he rest in peace. It's very sad what happened. But when I do research on former drivers, he's probably my favorite guy, simply based on whether he seems like a great dude, but also the quotes he gave and the way he talked about driving. He was so outspoken. He said a lot of great stuff. One of the things he said that I liked was he said that in the documentary called Senna, I believe it's on Netflix. It's a great documentary. He's got a line where he says that, he calls kart racing real racing because it came before politics and money got involved in racing. You can learn about the politics that he dealt with in the documentary Senna, but you learn about all the tricks about Ellen Prost and all these problems. So F1 is not perfect. Politics are involved. It's kind of messy. There's no equality from a budget standpoint. And the comparison I keep drawing for me is I love college football in America. Watching Clemson and Ohio State or USC or Alabama, Alabama's probably not going to play very many competitive games this year because their resources are so much greater than other teams they're going to play against. Does that make them not fun to watch? It does not. I love watching Alabama. A lot of people, these games bring massive crowds. And so just because there's not a ton of equality doesn't make it a bad product, but you have to draw that comparison. The NFL is on a much more level playing field. Now, even if you make it more level, the Redskins don't have as much money as the Seahawks. They might have the same amount of spending on their players, but their facilities are better in Seattle than in Washington. There are always going to be some kind of inequalities in sports. But I think when you talk and think about Formula One, at least from an American perspective, F1 is a lot more similar to college football than other sports, and that's okay. It's not entirely fair. And even if the guy who's going to win first place is not up for debate anymore, hey, there's still other battles going on down the line, whether it's the battle for best of the rest or 10th place or 9th place. It's always fun. And you can always find a good, interesting matchup as long as you go down the list and are willing to look for a good storyline.